Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina, where we're part of the ELCA. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. Once there was a college student who needed a small 2-hour course to fill out his schedule. The only one that fit was in wildlife zoology. He had some reservations because he had heard the course was tough and the teacher a bit different. But since it was his only choice, he signed up. After 1 week and one chapter, the professor gave a test to the class. He passed it out, and it was a sheet of paper divided into squares, and in each square was a carefully drawn picture of some bird legs. Not bird bodies, not bird feet, just different birds' legs. The test simply asked them to identify the birds from the pictures of their legs. Well, the student was absolutely floored. He didn't have a clue. The student sat and stared at the test and got angrier and angrier. Finally, reaching the boiling point, he stomped up to the front of the classroom and threw the test on the teacher's desk and exclaimed, "This is the worst test I have ever seen, and this is the dumbest class I have ever taken." The teacher looked back and said, "Young man, you just flunked this test." The student began to stalk away, but the teacher noticed that he hadn't put his name on the test. "By the way," the professor said, "what is your name?" The student turned, bent over, pulled up his pants to reveal his legs, and said, "You identify me." I love to tell that story anytime I need to talk about the events that happened at Caesarea Philippi. This is our second week of looking at what I am calling sacred geography and highlighting the significance of where things happened in the Bible and how the location itself has tremendous meaning to add to what happened there. Maybe nowhere is the location more important to the story than the events at Caesarea Philippi. Let me give you a bit of history about this place. First, it's located in the northern part of Israel, about 25 to 30 miles north of the Sea of Galilee. We would call it up in the mountains of Israel, and even now it is a popular tourist destination. In this area, there is a cave that has been called the Gates of Hell. And for centuries, people thought that that's literally what it was. They thought this deep cave was the very gates of Hades. In very ancient Bible times, this city was called Baal Gad or Baal Hermon, partly because the place is at the foot of Mount Hermon, but more significantly because early on it was the headquarters of the Baal religion. Later on, it was called Panias, after the Greek god Pan, and still today you can visit the ruins of the Temple of Pan there. There was also an important shrine to Zeus in this place. Later on, Philip, who had been appointed governor of this area by the Romans, renamed the city after Caesar Augustus and himself, giving it the name Caesarea Philippi. And I'll remind you that the Romans thought of and understood their Caesar to be a god. So it is in that place, long associated with the worship of Baal, and then with the Greek gods Pan and Zeus, and then with Caesar, in a city with temples and shrines and idols to different gods everywhere. It is there that Jesus chooses to ask his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" The disciples give many answers, from Elijah to John the Baptist and more. And then Jesus pushes it further and asks, "Who do you say that I am?" Peter suddenly couldn't contain it any longer. "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." So, in this place, surrounded by idols and false gods, Peter announces and affirms his faith in who Jesus really is, and that Jesus is the one true and living God. It's powerfully significant. We might also note that when Peter makes his confession, Jesus gives him the name Peter, which means rock, and says that his confession that Jesus is Lord is the foundation of the church, adding that the gates of hell will not prevail against confessions like those. Remember that right there was a cave called the gates of hell that many believed really was the entrance. Jesus says that even something so fearsome is nothing next to him. We need to remember that right after Peter made his confession about Jesus, Jesus began to speak of what being God's Son meant, how he would suffer and die. The meaning of Peter's confession is shaped by the cross. It is shaped by God's love for us. It is shaped by grace. There's a place there in a place of pure spiritual confusion. Jesus invites clarity. Christ confessed. Christ crucified. Christ alone. This is the heart of faith. Thanks for sharing these moments with me, and remember to let this day belong to God.